The Raiders take on the Rams. The earthquake and hurricane hit California, but the show still goes on the Put On Raiders podcast.
Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting off the these crazy shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful, not really beautiful, I guess, but it's pretty kind of crazy outside. We knew the hurricane was coming, so right now it's just been rain. So if you hear raindrops in the background, it's okay. I didn't want to move my whole setup to actually do the show, so I will suffer through one day of rain. And then Ryan, you had a little aftershocks going on over there, and where you live in California.
Yeah, I'm up north of LA. There's a 5.1 earthquake about 40 miles north of my house. Felt it pretty good. The TV was shaking, and the worst part about it is I was rewatching the Raiders game on the Raiders broadcast, and they cut out on KTLA to show earthquake news. I wish they would have stuck with the second half of the Raiders game, because I would have rather watched that than people talk about an earthquake that lasted about 10 seconds and didn't really do any damage.
Yeah, the first time I ever had one, I ever had an earthquake, I think I saw one of the million Spider-Man movies, and then everybody was just super chill, and then I was just like, I was freaking out. I was like, oh, I ran out of the theater. I was like, and my family was like, come back. It's fine. I was like, all right, sure, whatever. But it's all right. The Raiders. Also, don't forget, activeblack.com. You get 10% off at activeblack.com. So check that out as well for your active gear. 34-17, really wasn't indicative of how the Raiders kind of dominated this preseason game. But you only can do what the league says that you can do as far as that goes. The Raiders did, from what everybody said, play very well in the during practices as well. So that's something that's good. They continue to kind of own those. I think the first thing I have to say to you is that, we've seen kind of this thing before from the head coach. What are the keys to him kind of bringing this kind of production, I guess, to the regular season? Because they looked very good in the first two preseasons of his tenure with the Raiders, but the regular season was not what he wanted it to be.
Yeah, Josh McDaniels 6-0 in the preseason with the Raiders through 6 games,
dominant.
And I think we're saying they're running the ball at will when they want to, but I think the biggest thing is the discipline. You're seeing very little penalties, no pre-snap penalties. Guys aren't jumping offside. Do not sing false starts. Holding here or there. An offensive pass interference here or there, you can live with those, but you're not seeing, big penalties down the field, defensive pass interference. But the biggest thing is just down and distance. They're staying on schedule, and that needs to carry over that kind of production, and that will put them in better spots, especially with the quarterback situation they have now. Obviously, with Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not going to be converting second and 20s, third and 15s. A lot of guys can't do that, but he definitely can. So they need to stay on schedule, and they're doing that. And they need to be physical, and they need to be disciplined. And they're doing it for now. We'll see what happens when they kick off in Denver for week 1. Hopefully this continues, but all signs are pointing in the right direction as the Raiders ramp up here, the head into preseason week 3. And I don't expect much of anybody to play in the third preseason game.
Nothing that gets people riled up like a good old quarterback controversy. Do the Raiders actually have one? I think that's the question we have to kind of ponder. I don't think they have one, but Aidan O'Connell is shown that he is an NFL player. I think right now, I think that's the one thing when you take a quarterback later in the draft, you want to show that he belongs in the National Football League, and I think he has a place in the league now. I don't know where that place is. I don't know if that place means he is a future starter for the Raiders or another team. I don't really well. I think it's really early to kind of say that right now, but he did play well a couple weeks in a row. Missed a couple throws here and there, but he's been pretty solid. And I think the one thing I like about it was, especially on a touchdown pass to Cam Sims, don't throw those balls out of bounds. The wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, they have every single advantage you possibly can have, as far as catching the ball. You got pass interference, you got all the different things. Like, give them the opportunity. They're the superior athlete, they're the better player than most defensive backs. He gave Cam Sims an opportunity to catch that ball, and that's all we've been waiting for kind of years. So hopefully Jimmy Garoppolo can do the same thing.
Yeah, the biggest takeaways from Aidan O'Connell is he's making the right decisions. He knows where to go with the football. He's not panicking in the pocket. You see him standing there, step up, deliver strikes is what you can ask him to do now. Now, like you said, he has earned his spot. I believe he's going to be the backup quarterback on this roster. I think Hoyer stays as a 3, honestly, if you look at Hoyer's contract. They're going to take on some dead money if they want to move on. But now that you're allowed to have 3, most teams are going to keep 3. But I would feel more comfortable going into the season with O'Connell. Now, having said that, he's throwing the ball against 3rd and 4th string guys that aren't going to be in this league in a week. He's not facing any blitzes. He's not facing elite defensive linemen that are breathing down his neck. And that's the next step. He's going to have to show he can do that. He's not seeing exotic looks pre-snap that are switching into different looks post-snap. He's not being schemed up, but he's doing what he needs to do to show that he has earned a job to be a backup in this league. Now, whether that evolves over time into a starter, it probably will based on what he's shown us. But what level of starter? Are you talking top 10, middle 3rd, or bottom 3rd? I don't think that he has the athletic ability or the special traits to ever be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And ultimately, that's what you're looking for when you want to compete for championships. But he's shown that he can be on a roster. He probably will be a starter at some point. Now, what does the roster around him look like, and how far can he take you, are 2 totally different questions. But that's way down the line. Right now, Aidan O'Connell is balling out in the preseason, and in my opinion, he has passed Brian Hoyer and deserves to be the number 2 quarterback.
And do you want to? I mean, like, is it worth? I mean, how much money is it? How much money is it going to be if they cut Hoyer? Question 1: if he retires, can they retire and then give him a certain amount of money so it doesn't kill the cap? These are some of the questions I've been getting from some people about him, because the reason why they're asking is like the people are saying, and thanks James for the question. He was saying that, I don't want to lose a Wilkerson or somebody, a good player, for a guy who's not going to play. And let's be honest, like Hoyer, like how much does he really, the teaching part of it, like it's just at some point it's like, do you want to be the quarterback's coach? Like, or what? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because like, you really need your guy. You really need as many athletes as humanly possible. And you never know what position group, Ryan, is going to take a hit injury-wise. It could be any of them.
That's a 2-part question. The first would be, Brian Hoyer signed, I believe, a 2-year, $4.6 million, $4.5 is guaranteed. So basically the whole contract is guaranteed outside of $100,000. His 2024 roster bonus of $950,000 and change is already guaranteed for next year. So if they moved on from him this year, you're looking at about $4.5 million in dead money. And if they move on next year, assume he makes it through 2023 as a 3rd string quarterback and they want to upgrade that next offseason, it's still about $2.5 million in dead money next year.
Okay.
So the Raiders gave him basically a fully guaranteed 2-year contract. So they're going to have to eat the money one way or the other. Now, next year, $2.5 million is still $2.5 million. It probably never should have happened, but it did, because the Raiders didn't know O'Connell was going to turn out to be what he's been. But I fully expect all 3 of them to be on the roster. If you can carry 3 and that you can have a 3rd active that doesn't count against your 46 for emergencies, why would teams not do that? Would be my question.
Wow. Makes sense. So he's good to go then. That's a good gig.
Yeah.
He's not gonna screw that up.
The first thing I did was look at him when the game ended last night, and I was like,
I can't screw that up.
Well, he's not walking away from $4.5 million. It's basically guaranteed. Like, he's not going to retire.
Yeah.
He's going to put the cap on and go sit on the sideline.
Yeah, that's funny. So I just want to respond to a couple like the quote unquote hater stuff that on X or Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, real quick. So people were tweeting like, where are the people who wanted us to tank for Caleb Williams, all this stuff like that. So on this show, we try to be as, when the Raiders do good, we will talk about how they're good. When they're bad, we'll talk about why they're bad. But this group front office, this whole situation, they have never won. So for us to raise questions about, guaranteed contracts for Carr, like all some of the mixed cues they made, was this team ready to make a trade for Devontae Adams? Are they in that place where they should have done that? It's okay. You can live in both worlds where we criticize what they do, and then when you draft a guy maybe like like a Drake Thomas who we like, maybe he's a player, or look at or have a good draft pick with Michael Mayer. We can praise those two. Those two worlds can actually live together. So like I understand that some people are like trying to pound their chest because of the preseason, but nobody is game planning. Ryan, who is the defensive coordinator for the Rams again? I forgot his name. It's not Vince Joseph.
Ray Morris.
Craig Morris.
Morris.
Yeah, Craig Morris, right. They're literally talking to Kareem Morris, Raheem Morris during the game. Like the broadcast crew was talking to him during the game. So how serious is he taking the play calling duties during that game? Not really that serious, right? It's very bland. It's very nothing, right? So like the Raiders and O'Connell did well, but like let's just be like it's okay. It's okay, Brand Nation. We haven't found Johnny Unitas in him yet. Let's just let it play out and see what happens as far as that goes. What is nice to see is that they have somebody who might be competent if Jimmy G goes down for 3 or 4 games.
No, definitely. He's looked like he's going to be able to step in and at least keep the offense moving. Now, is he going to be dynamic if Pat Surtain's out there and not the 4th-string cornerback for the Rams? Is he get the same guy? I don't know. We don't know the answers to those questions. But Aidan O'Connell, at this point, he's growing on me. I was totally against the pick when it made. You guys can go back and listen to the podcast, and he may still flame out. We don't know. I mean, Scott Dreisbach was the next coming one preseason. Like every year, every 2 or 3 years, the Raiders have some backup that over the last 20 years that showed something in the preseason that got everyone excited.
Yeah.
So let's slow down a little bit, but at the same time, we can say this guy's performing very well. But we'll see what happens when the bullets are real, when Aaron Donald's breathing down his neck, when Randy Gregory coming off the edge week 1, or whoever the Steelers, if it's TJ Watt, we'll see if he's on the field, if it looks any different. It probably will. He's a rookie. Let's go back and know this guy's never played a snap in an actual NFL game.
Yes.
Before people are saying there's a quarterback controversy and he needs to be QB1 and all of that. I'm seeing Aiden O'Brady tweets. Like it's fun on X or Twitter, but you still have to be realistic.
My favorite is Aidan O'Connell because of his arm. They talk about Aidan O'Connell.
He doesn't have a ton of arm strength either. That's the weird thing. Like he's got enough.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have John Elway, Jeff George, Justin Herbert. Like he doesn't have a rocket like those guys have.
What was your favorite throw from him in the last game?
The red zone throw to Wilkerson, because if you go back and watch it, his first read is to his left. He's looking at a slant, and the safety comes over, and then he has to adjust back to the other side of the field. Wilkerson's running a fade route that's not there, and then he kind of just breaks inside, and O'Connell sees that and puts it where only Wilkerson can catch it.
Yeah.
To have that kind of ability in the pocket, okay, one's gone. The fade's not there, but, he just broke open. I'm going to just give this guy a chance and be able to throw a dime in the red zone.
Yeah,
we haven't seen a lot of those
in
Raider number 4 jerseys.
Yes. No, and yes.
In the red zone.
In the red zone. In the red zone.
We've seen plenty of dimes. I'm saying in the red zone.
Before we get Carl Ward started. 4.0 yards per carry for Zamir White in this ball game as well. Darian Thompson came in later on. Brandon Bolden had a touchdown. It's like, I mean, Bolden's making this. We all know Bolden's making this team. I know people filling the text spots about our text line about Brandon Bolden. He's definitely making this team. Dorsett, wearing number 11, had some nice plays and had some Henry Ruggs flashes there. But the rookie Trey Tucker, he's up and down. So we'll have to see how he continues to progress. But I thought he played fairly well. I think the biggest thing for me was the special teams. Like, did he not know he can down it? Like, was it just like, I mean, just go ahead and just down that ball after you drop it, as far as that goes. But what were your thoughts about Trey Tucker and some of the receivers?
I think it was good to see him bounce back from some adversity. Obviously, week 1 and the first half of week 2, this past game against the Rams didn't go well for him. A ball he could have caught in the end zone right before the half, a ball that goes through his hands, then he tries to take it out. Luckily, he made someone miss at the 5, got tackled at the 10. And then you saw him make, kind of a handsy catch on that deep comeback where he caught it. It was reviewed. They gave him a catch. You saw him catch a go route from O'Connell. So it was good to see him make plays later in the game and not just get totally down. And I was texting you through the game. I like Trey Tucker. And when I saw him at training camp, I saw pure speed. Like he can get from A to B, north, south, but it wasn't shifty side to side. It's not Dante Hall. It's not Peter Warwick. And you kind of see that on
Peter
some of
Warwick.
you see that kind of on some of those jet sweeps where he kind of just gets tackled. There's no wiggle. He can't make that guy miss. It's pure, I'm going to beat him to the edge with speed. And for a guy that small, you'd like to see a little bit of wiggle. The fact they're lining him up on the outside, he's not going to win any 50-50 balls. He's going to have to create a ton of separation against some better corners on the outside. And ultimately, I think he goes into the slot. But right now, they need speed outside, which is why I think Dorsett's going to make this team because he can still run. They need a guy that can open it up. But if he's going to make some errors in the kicking game, if he's not going to be reliable on some passes, that right now I don't see him getting a ton of snaps from the season. For the first 3 or 4 weeks, you're going to see DeAndre Carter returning kicks, DeAndre Carter returning punts, Hunter Renfrow, DeAndre Carter, Jacoby Myers in the slot. You're not going to see a lot of Trey Tucker on the field unless they have something dialed up specifically for him, a play here or play there. So they're going to bring him along slowly, and there's plenty of time, but he's going to have to shore up the hands. Because when the ball gets around him, he's going to have to make plays on the ball. Or you're looking at kind of like a smaller James Jett. That's kind of what I texted you last night. Like a guy that can really run, can get up and down the field and draw out some coverage. But if he's not going to hold on the ball, then safeties are just going to let him go. And hopefully the corner can run with him. But it was exciting. I was excited to see his second half for the way he bounced back. On your other comment, Zamir White, it's 2 games where you're kind of just waiting for him to do something. It's kind of like he's just getting the yards he's supposed to get. The line's opening up holes. He's getting, they block it for 6, he gets 7. They block it for 4, he gets 4. Like, you're not seeing him make anyone miss. You're not seeing him get loose. He's had the corner a couple times where he gets brought down, where you're expecting a big play when they pack it down, some of those toss plays. So this team misses Josh Jacobs, and that's kind of where I wanted to go next. And we've had a timeline on this show. Josh Jacobs has about 7 days to report if he wants to play week 1. He needs to report next Sunday or next Monday at the latest. Like, soon as this Cowboys game's over, he'll have 2 weeks. He needs to get into camp and start running around with pads on and get in football shape and be around his teammates. He can't show up the Monday of week 1 and expect to get 15 carries. I just don't think they're going to do that. This team right now, the offensive line's playing well. They have some weapons outside. The defense is energized. This team needs Josh Jacobs, and the Raiders need to do whatever they can. But Josh Jacobs needs to get into camp. Like, he's not going to sit out and make an extra $2 or $3 million by waiting this out. It is what it is, and he needs to get in and play some football at this point.
Yeah, and I think he does because I feel like, and like you said about White, he just I think it was a play in the game. I'm not sure what Raider running back did it, but where they got stuffed at the line and then they just bounced it outside. I don't know if it was Williams or whoever, but he won't even do that. Like when the hold is there, he'll get exactly 5 yards, 6 yards, and then that's it, and that's fine. I mean, that's fine if that's what you feel like is good. That's what he's going to get. So you have to move on and make that deal done. I mean, just have Josh Jacobs come back because the Raiders do need him. And I think the one thing I'll say, man, when you get Josh Jacobs on this team with the way the offensive line and that's where I'll go next. The offensive line if it continues to play this well, you have a team that can really move the football against, the majority of teams in the National Football League. We saw Munford at one tackle, Illuminor at the other tackle. What were your thoughts on the offensive line? I thought they did a really, really good job. I don't remember any real pressure. I think there was a time where I think that the pass that Garoppolo had to Myers was he got hit a little bit. He got hit a little bit. I think also a couple times they got to the quarterback and they got a sack, but one sack was Hoyer just holding the ball. Hoyer holding the ball too long. But what are your thoughts about the offensive line? I thought they did a decent job. And a big remember football, this team, with the pass catchers they have, they're going to move the football.
Yeah, so I watched the first half before that earthquake hit today. So I was really watching the tackles, and I thought Mumford played pretty well. They chipped every once in a while, but he held up pretty well in pass protection, and he opened some holes for White, run blocking. And I think seeing Illuminor over at left tackle obviously was to make sure Hoyer especially Garoppolo and then Hoyer didn't get hurt. You didn't see Justin Herron over there immediately. So I think clearly the backup left tackle on this roster, now that Brandon Park is on IR, is Illuminor. And the question is, does Illuminor just become the swing tackle, or does he become the starting right tackle? And I think the more I look at it, the more I think Mumford is pushing him, just because Mumford is developing. He's a bigger guy. He's a better run blocker. Now, can he hold up in pass protection, or are they going to try to scheme that with a back chipping, keep a tight end over there, try to help him out? And I think Van Roten has won the right guard job. That guy's opened up holes. He's mean. He's nasty. He's an old school Raider offensive lineman, and he's kind of shored up that right guard spot. When Jimmy got hurt, when you're referencing that, or got hit, no, I'm sorry, not hurt. That may be a Freudian slip there. But when he got hit, that was over left guard. Parham didn't play. That was Mutai over there. And Jimmy did a great job anticipating where Myers was going to be and kind of floated it to a spot and trusted that Myers was going to be there. I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's got no arm strength. Like, he had a guy bearing down on him.
He couldn't hit into that throw.
No, Aidan O'Connell had a guy bearing down on him, and he stepped into it and took the shot from the rusher and delivered a strike down the field. So it's good to see. Obviously don't want that happening, but when that does happen, neither one of those guys flinched and was able to complete those passes. But I do think the offensive line is settling in. Little concern rewatching on some of the screens they tried to run where, Andre James just didn't get out there and make the block. And, he looks better in the run game, but still, you'd like to see them run better screens. That's something that the Patriots have always done, and something the Raiders have always never been to do as far as since the Marcus Allen days, probably, or Harvey Williams, run screens. And you're just not seeing that athleticism from some of these bigger offensive linemen to get out in space. So we'll see what happens as they go into the regular season. But I think the offensive line's set, except for right tackle. And right now I'd give a slight edge to Munford over Illuminor, unless this team wants to come out and just throw the ball. If they come out and decide we're going to throw the ball a ton, which I would advise against going up against Buffalo, Denver, and Pittsburgh. If they want to come out and run the ball, then I think you're going to see Mumford in there. And this could also be a thing where they alternate. We saw some of that last year. If the Raiders fall behind and they have to throw the football, maybe Illuminor plays right tackle. Yeah. And you could see these guys coming in series to series, depending on what they want to do, where they are in the game. It's a good thing to have. I think Mumford looked pretty good just from the TV copy. Again, I'm not watching all 22 preseason. I don't have that kind of time on my hands, but I do like where the offensive line is as a whole when you plug Colton Miller, Dylan Parham back in, and then the addition of Van Roten has kind of solidified that right side.
Yeah. And there's a and then when we have Bars is not is getting less snaps, which is okay by this problem.